Morning, 8A brokers. Can everybody hear me at this time? Someone could just give me a message on the chat. I'd appreciate it. Morning. Oh, great, wonderful. Thank you. All right. So, well, thank you all for joining again as we rescheduled from last week. Um, just as you all know, we're just going to go over a few things. The meeting will last about 50 minutes. We'll use the Gmail chat. Our next roundtable will be scheduled, is already scheduled. It will be Tuesday, September 19th at 10 a.m. So please go ahead and mark your calendars for that. A couple of things that I just want to go over from a housekeeping standpoint. Uh, Please make sure you save and replace the last 8A contact sheet that I sent across yesterday. There are some changes there that I really would like everyone, the information is definitely going to be useful for everyone. Obviously, just to review, Katura really should be the primary contact for you all. If she's out of office, her out of office message will let you know who is the appropriate contact. Sometimes it will be me, sometimes it may be another team member. And when it comes to Puerto Rico, just Lisa Carlson, she only handles Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands when it comes to those cases. So Florida questions should not be directed to Lisa. Um, Michael or Mike and Stacy, they handle our Florida assets together. Um, and so, and the way that they split them is just randomly during each day. So, if you do receive questions from them, please make sure that you are responding to them. The other person I want to just remind you is Tiffany. She's the asset specialist admin. She manages the bids for us. We do know, I know that a lot of people have questions about bids. So please make sure that if you have questions about bids, those should be directed. She will not be answering any questions until after 2 p.m. on that day after bids have been awarded. So please make sure that you withhold questions to her until after all bids have been awarded, and they will be completed by 2 p.m. each day. All right, so that was that. On the contact sheet, also, as you all know, we have a new field service manager, and the field service manager is Sam JV. Their long name is Strategic Alliance Management, but we're just going to call them Sam JV. The utility activation form is now online and live, so you can actually go in the new contact sheet that I provided. I embedded the link, so you can definitely access that information and the form there. Also, just to note, please remember that Step 7 cancellations are sent to Sandy, not to me. I do not process those. Also, just to note, with routine maintenance inspections, if you have questions, I did update Gabby's email address. So please note that that I did update that she has a new Sage email address rather than a Pemco one. Also, I added the no yard sign document so that if you have with HOAs, if you have an HOA that has a no sign restriction, then you must include that image in all of your inspections. Please make sure that you include that image as one of them in your inspections. That's a very easy way and helps our team catch that, so they're not looking for a yard sign and subtracting or disapproving a inspection. Obviously, utility HOA bills, please make sure that those are submitted 10 days prior to closing at the closing.invoice@sagecq email address. If you are looking for a contract status update, please direct those to customer service. I have their numbers multiple times and email address multiple times in here. Please allow them the time to get back to you. And I say that is important because we have had a lot of questions when it comes to e-signatures. Now, we're going to review that in just a few minutes, but if you are calling or need a status on a contract, make sure you're directing it to customer service. If you have any title companies that have title closing companies that have questions about just actually, if they have any questions concerning their IDs or their account or anything, please make sure it's you can give them the email address for bsca.atlanta@sagecq.com. That is where all the questions need to be directed. And as a note, if you are or if the buyer selects a title closing agent that has not been used previously in the HUD system, then you must submit a paper contract for them to, in order to be entered into the HUD system. So just remember to keep that as a note to yourself, and whenever the contracts are being submitted. We also have the information for the broker submissions for the Sage Events page. Please make sure that you're putting and submitting your events, whether they are buyer outreach, monthly marketing evidence, or your quarterly trainings. Please make sure you're submitting them for inclusion on this event on the Sage Events page. That will be that is helpful for us, and we also promote those via social media. All right, I think that covers the contact sheet. But I do, like I said, do please spend time just to look over it because there was a lot of information that was updated on that sheet. If you have a question, please make sure you're reaching out to Katora. If she can't help you, she will actually forward it over to me, and together we'll get that answer right away for you as fast as we can. If you do have an urgent matter, then please make sure that you are that you can call me directly. My phone number always appears in my signature, so you all should have that. All right, a couple of other things. So our team moved offices, as I mentioned. We are now sitting with the Rain Sage team in Marietta. So there have been a few changes through that, but if you did have an address for us, make sure that you update that because we are no longer at 7,000. We are now at the 1850 building. And our phone numbers did remain the same. So those our phone numbers and emails remain unchanged. So you have nothing to worry about on that side. Also, just as a note that with my phone number, with the direct dial, just so you know, if you that my number, whenever I call, will be the one that shows up on your caller ID. So if you want to if you want to save that number and you receive a call, you will be notified that it's me because that is the it does show up whenever I'm calling out. It doesn't go to a different phone number. All right, so when it comes to our new FSM, SAM JV, we do not have a key code update yet. I know that their plans were submitted to HUD, but we are awaiting approval. And once we have those key codes and they've been approved by HUD, then we will let everybody know and submit that so everybody can order new keys, as well as when the timeline of when they will be switching over to the new key codes. All right, I already covered the activation link. All right, so let's actually take a few minutes and go over the e-signature workflow. I know I included it in the emails yesterday to the brokers. Is my voice still cutting out? Okay, great. All right, so if y'all could, if you have that form that the worksheet, the flow that I sent to everyone yesterday, I just wanted to take a little time to go over this. It really is a helpful document, but I put some notes that I wanted to share with you all so that to maybe add some clarification, because as you all have noticed, you know, from a HUD standpoint, whether they are talking to about brokers and agents, they do not delineate between like our listing brokers and the selling brokers or selling agents. So I thought maybe I would just give you some of my notes as we're going as we go through the document. Um, so under this first section, after the asset manager accepts the bid, so during that point, this is all going to the selling agent or to the selling agent. So if there is a identified selling agent that is not the listing broker, it is not the selling broker, um, that is who this first email goes to. And they will go in and they are going to confirm all of the contact information. When when you are looking at that e-signature checklist, make sure that both of the boxes are checked. So this is not just a checklist for you to mentally go through. It does require that those two boxes be checked. If they are not checked, then it stops the process and the following steps will not take place. And that is one of the challenges with this e-signature process is that everybody has to do their part in order, or else the if somebody stops and doesn't do something, and it doesn't maybe enter their signature, none of the other parties would that followed that person's signature would actually be notified. So it is important for you to make sure that you are um, that you're checking those boxes and doing and completing every step along this e-signature workflow. So after so once let me back right up. So make sure you check the boxes, and then also this is where an earnest money deposit section that will not display until the contract is in place. So the selling agent or broker does not have to upload the earnest money check and proof of funds at this time. After that is completed, it actually comes back to Sage. So, and then this is where we essentially confirm the information as well. And then the selling agent, selling broker receive that final checklist, and this is when they are able to upload the earnest money. They also verify their signatures and provide their e-signatures, um, and it goes in the order of the obviously the selling agent. Then it goes to the selling broker or signing broker, whoever's name it is under. And then it will go to the buyer and the closing agent. So looking at the third section when it comes to e-signature steps, I just, under this bidding, broker, agent, I just scratched out and I just said selling. So it just, to help me keep the sides clear on who is doing what, the selling broker or agent then gets the email with the link to review the contract and clicks finish. I'm not going to read all of that to you, but I want you to know that if you click to reject the sales package, that cancels the sale altogether. So if for some reason you are planning to submit a paper package, a paper contract or a hard contract, you need to make sure that you are notifying the notify Tiffany with that, so that we can just make sure um, that the appropriate people are looking out for that. But if you do click that button, the click to reject the sale package, it will cancel your sale altogether. Actually, I take that back. I'm so sorry, all. If you are going to submit that paper package via overnight mail to us, please notify Sandy, and she is the person that is on the contact sheet. She receives the step 7 cancellations. So at the office here, she also does receive the mail as it's coming in for those contracts. All right. So so essentially, when you look at this third section, everybody ends up getting a link to the contract. And when I say everybody, that is the selling agent, selling broker, the client, the buyer, as well as the title company. If our listing brokers want a copy, which most people do, you'll actually need to obtain that from P260. And we are making them viewable for you, so um, there should be um, the file should be there for you to download. If it's not, then please send that request to Tiffany and we'll double check on that for you. But like I said, the email with the document that has links to the contract that goes to the selling agent, to the buyer, and to the title company, that's actually an email that comes from DocuSign. It is it is not an email that comes directly from Sage or from P260. Um, that's all the notes that I really wanted to kind of comment on within this workflow. Just so to also note and remind you all, I mentioned earlier, but new BSCAs or title companies that are not in our system will require paper contracts, and when that is the case, you will be notified um, immediately as bids are being processed. So please make sure that the actually, so who will be notified is the selling agent, selling broker. Tiffany, okay, so the selling agent or selling broker, they are the one who will be receiving notification when a paper contract is required. All right, so let's see. I'm just going to take 1 second and look at some of these questions to see if there's any regarding just the e-signature. What about where paper contracts, the hard copy contracts still go to the same address as in the contract package. It is the 1850 Parkway Place. Parkway Place. So that does not change. It's the same address that is in the contract package. So you're going to be there shouldn't be confusion about that. Is there a way to change add email of selling agent? No. The question is there a way to change or add email of selling agent as the transaction progresses? The answer to that is no. The selling agent they will actually have to confirm all of the information. Um, that is the first step of the e-signature contract process as it begins outside of HUD and Sage. So they will at that time have to confirm their information. It cannot be changed after that. Let's see. Can you please? Okay, so we're looking at clarification for when the earnest money is being submitted and uploaded. And to really help everyone make this as simple as possible is essentially nothing changed. It is still the exact same steps as before. The only change is that we need a proof of funds as well. And when you are scanning in that information, it needs to be one PDF document that has both the check and the proof of funds. So that is the only piece of the process that has changed. And you complete that task in Sugar or / the PEMCO site. And we internally review that and make sure that the information is there and correct and accurate, and then that helps move along the contract. That is now, just so you all know, that is also an important step in the contract, the e-signature contract approval process. So once that is received, please make sure you're uploading those two into one document right away, because you don't want to sit on that and not have a contract canceled when we have not been able to verify the information provided. So please make sure that that is a task completed. If you wait to do that at the end of the 2 days, you run a risk of having that contract canceled. So that is a very, very important. All right, so can we share the workflow document with selling agents so they understand the process? Yes, absolutely. Actually, the workflow, I also embedded the link to it. There is, as well as providing the link to the HUD website. The HUD developed the workflow document as well as all those videos that we initially watched as the e-signature launched a couple of weeks ago. So both of those, all of those videos that are on the HUD website, as well as the document, the workflow, those are all available to selling agents as well. So please feel free to share those. Should questions arise, or even if you want, maybe incorporate them into your big notification letters that I know a lot of the listing brokers utilize them to help guide through the contract process with HUD. So yes, those are both public, and I will include the links to both of those in the follow-up email. And just so y'all know, the presentations that are made on the HUD website, those videos that we actually watched, I do not have copies of those presentations. So all I have are the video, the links. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to share those because I do not have them myself. Okay, is there a way we can be copied on each step so that we can assist the selling agent? Unfortunately, no. That is, HUD worked with DocuSign on this, and unfortunately, they did not build that capability into the process. If your selling agent or the selling broker has a question, they feel like the contract has stalled somewhere, please direct them to customer service, because customer service will be able to help them identify maybe what step that is holding up the process. if the selling agent and the listing agent are the same and use only one email, will it work for electronic signatures? Yes. The answer to that is yes. It doesn't matter if the selling agent, selling broker are kind of serving both sides of the seller and buyer. Do we upload? What's PQ? Oh, pre-qual. Got it. All right. We upload if we do not get the pre-qual, proof of funds, and only have the EMD. No, I actually, at that point, they need both documents. So both documents are required, and I'll tell you, they will most likely cancel the contract if both documents are not included. So make sure that you're conveying with your selling agents and selling brokers that both documents are required, or the contract could be canceled. For the listing agent, as I mentioned earlier, so the question is that the listing broker, listing agent, how do you obtain a copy of the contract? I said this before, that you will have to pull that out of P260 Yardi. We are making them viewable for you, so that is the only way that you are going to be able to access that document. Okay. That's it for that, right? We're good? We answered all right. Okay. So if you have specific questions about this process, honestly, a great resource is customer service, because they are able to look in, tell you where, like I said before, where the contract is, if it has stalled someplace, but also, they're speaking to the selling agents and buyers, and even our listing brokers, and they are much better versed in the process and how you all interact with it, and how, as compared to how we interact. So I highly recommend, if you do have questions, please direct it to them, because they are going to be your best resource on that. All right, so now I actually want to pass over the speaking opportunity over to Couture for a few minutes, and she's going to talk about MME and buyer outreach.
Good morning, everyone. Go over some guidelines for task input for the monthly marketing evidence buyer outreach agent sales training. Over the course of my review, I have noticed a lot of information that is entered that is either incorrect or does not contain enough information. For monthly marketing evidence, this is a monthly requirement to market active step 6 properties in your inventory. Both the task and notes in P260 are considered marketing evidence and should be completed correctly to receive credit. For the MME task, you have to have 2 different forms of marketing types in order to receive credit. For buyer outreach, this is for you to provide information to the community regarding the HUD process. These are community outreaches and events performed monthly. This task must be completed in detail, explaining what you did or talked about during this event. For the sales training, this task must be completed with the complete location name or where it was held, a complete full address with city and state, and how many people attended.
Hold on one second. Sorry. All right. Go ahead, Couture.
Okay. For each task, entering the same information for each task is unacceptable, and the task will be placed in pending input. There are several types of marketing that you could use for monthly marketing evidence. Some examples are internet marketing, syndication sites, local publications, or buyer outreach. The community events that you hold, for example, could be open house. And if you use open house as an example, make sure that it's very detailed in your description to talk about what you went over during the open house, and also provide the complete address and case number. Um,
No, it's just you.
Also, I would like for you all to know we are going to start random audits for the MME, buyer outreach, and sales training. If audited, only then will you need to supply hard evidence that should match your submitted information outlined in each task. If audited, you will only need to supply evidence for your requested task for the monthly marketing evidence, sales training, or buyer outreach. If the evidence presented on your audit submission does not match what was placed in the task, you will receive a correction notice. Also, please remember to keep all of your hard copy evidence in-house for if requested by Sage.
Okay, so a couple of questions for Katora. So what you're saying is that they should actually keep their hard copies and just make photocopies for what they're submitting for the evidence on these audits?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So make sure that you are not submitting your only copy. We don't want to hear that as an excuse whenever we're going through the audits. Keep your copy and submit us a photocopy of those documents. And you will only have to submit the questions that are submit for the items that Katora is specifically asking about. So if she is asking about MME or buyer outreach or the quarterly sales, that is what you're going to need to provide the information for. We did in the last month that I actually was even looking through, was really disappointed in some of the responses that the brokers were providing. So the audit is going to begin this week. You will be getting those emails this week about that. If you do not receive an email, then you do not have to submit the evidence. But when you do submit it, just so you know, it is going to be sent to Victoria's attention, and it will be mailed to our offices. And we will give you a due date deadline. So this is not required to be overnighted. That's an unnecessary expense. We will give you an opportunity to have these due to us by a certain date, and they will then be reviewed by Katora. So let's be realistic with it. No need to overnight any of the documents that are being sent. Um, One of the things, just to highlight what Katora said, if you are doing an open house, I want to see the case number for what house you used for the open house. So make sure the case number is included in your notes. If you don't have any properties, you are still expected to complete these tasks. I know that sounds like a bear, but the thing is that we do have to have these completed. We submit these every month to HUD, and HUD does look at them. So it is important, like, for you to complete your buyer outreach and your monthly marketing evidence. If you do not have any active properties, well, then there are other activities that can be selected within each category. So if you may not have a property to do an open house, but you can definitely do there's many other ones like the radio show or a community event, a home buyer education. You can even partner with another broker if you want. But it is important that you do not just hang your hat on these open houses, because people who have stated that they did not do anything because they have no inventory, they will not receive credit for that. It's not an acceptable response. Um, we will send, as follow-up, we'll also provide the uh, listing broker training and outreach document that has all of this information. It has links embedded to some of the videos that, and also tells you the timestamp of where, so you can fast forward through some of these videos on where information is about a task. It also includes information. It has the successfully selling HUD PowerPoint presentation, as well as directions on how to submit for events on the Sage events website. So it's a very useful document. Please make sure that you take time to review that. All right, one of the last things that I have, but thank you, Katora.
You're welcome.
All right. And one of the last things I just want everyone to know, and this impacts Puerto Rico a little bit more than it does Florida, but we have moved a lot of properties into a step two that may have been previously on market. If you have a question about that, most of those properties are going to auction. And so we will be sending everyone, I'll notify all of the brokers impacted by that and send the list of properties that are going to be in auction, so you can cross-reference the properties as well as um, or cross-reference so you can identify properties that you have been managing. If a property does go to auction, you still are required to complete the task. And we are having to do this for a lot of different properties, especially in Puerto Rico, because of the housing environment and what's kind of happening as it's a chain reaction of a lot of things going on down there at this point. So that email, just so the brokers know, will be going out probably tomorrow or Thursday. Some of the step two cases are also have been moved down for evaluation for price reductions or BPO price reductions. Um, so, they may be promoted again. That's why it's going to be important for you to cross-reference that list. I don't see my note on here, but I do know on your BPOs, especially, and I'm speaking especially about ongoing BPOs, please make sure that you are including that 30-day value. I know the document says that not required for HUD properties, but we would really like to see that because when we do have aging inventory, we really we heavily rely on your comments and input into that BPO document. So that is something that has been very useful. And if we are going to make a price reduction of any sort, we need to have those supporting comments from you in the BPO. And please make sure that you are giving us an accurate description of the property in the BPO. We talked about this briefly before, but we really don't need the BPO. The purpose of it is to really help us understand the condition of the property, what's going on specifically with the property, what's going on in that area. Are there a lot of homes for sale in that neighborhood, or like all those kind of details really help us, especially when we're looking at these properties that are aging. So please take the time to include that information in your BPO. And as some of you probably have noticed, that your properties that we are making BPO price reductions on aging properties. So like I said, the information you provide is absolutely necessary and important and critical to us helping to reduce this aged inventory that we have in the 8A area. I think the last thing, actually, is just two things. Um, One, as I like to always say, please make sure the insurability is on your tear sheets, and that is on every tear sheet. Um, and make sure that that the same tear sheet is uploaded with the insurability to both P260 and sugar. Like, it is required that you look at both. HUD does lower our scorecard each month if we do not have insurability on these tear sheets. And there have been some people that are repeat offenders. I'll tell you, I can't keep on having points deducted when from HUD on my scorecard when it's the same offenders, and so actions will be taken to improve our scorecard with HUD, which means it will also negatively impact the people who are leaving insurability off of their tear sheets continually. The last thing I do want to cover off again is to make sure that you are including the HOA information in your initial inspection. Um, I cannot stress how important this is. While we try to have many checks and balances in the system so that people are looking at this, it doesn't always work. And when we have cases that are closing and we find out that there's been an HOA that has not been paid, then the entire time that this property was on market, we are accruing fines. And those fines are the responsibility of Sage Acquisitions. So that impacts our bottom line. And this has happened a couple of times now. So I really, if you don't have the HOA information, then please email it immediately once you have it to myself and Katora. We'll make sure that things are the input and the system is updated correctly. However, like, this can't be something that continues, because on two recent closings, each one cost us over $2,000. So that was $4,000 that we had to put out as an organization to cover up or to pay for somebody else's lack of information. So, and I'll tell you, whatever I get management asking me about these, they're not tolerant of this. So this is something that they take very seriously, and um, swift action will be taken when it continues to not appear in the reports. Okay, that is all that I have right now. Does anyone else have anything in our team? We good? All right, so we're going to use the last few minutes to look over. Let's see how we can answer some questions. All right. So, is it 5 stars at the first question? Okay. So I have a question about the 5 Star Conference having required meeting. So just so y'all know, it is not mandatory. It is not mandatory to attend the 5 Star Conference for Sage. If you are um, if you are attending and you want to attend Sage's event, then you need to be. I believe you have to register for it. if you have already registered for the conference and you don't have um, access to it or something with the registration, I will include an email address. It's a member of our team. Her name's Kristen, and she will help make sure that you are registered for the event if you want to attend. So I will include her email address in the follow-up as I take a note. Hold on one second. All right. Um, all right. So I see a couple questions. Where is the image for the HOA? It is in the contact sheet, the 8A contact sheet. It is embedded in there, I believe. Let me just see. It is on the third page, on the last page under HOA no yard signs. That so you click on that icon and it will open up that document or it will open up that image for you. HOA information just gets uploaded into P260. No, whenever you are completing, I believe it is your initial inspection as well as your BPO, um, or in um, I'm blanking on that because I know you have to put information into sugar as well. I just can't remember if it's the initial inspection or the BPO. Actually, I take that back. It's for the BPO. When you're submitting your BPO, the HOA information is part of that BPO submission in sugar. So it needs to make sure that you're including that information in both systems. Um, is there a YouTube educational for selling agents? I'm not sure what you're referring to. If you're talking about for the e-signature process, you can share the link to the HUD page that I will also include again in the follow-up email. But that is a public link that HUD allows or developed so that everybody, both selling agents, listing brokers, title companies, anybody who wants to be educated on the process, even a buyer, could go and watch that. Can we have a PowerPoint for our seller agent training? If you're talking about the successfully selling HUD homes, that PowerPoint is also embedded within the 8A contact sheet. Hold on a second, let me just double check. Actually, I take that back. I apologize. Um, it will be embedded in the document, the training and outreach task document that will be attached to the follow-up email. That is where it is embedded. Again, it will have an icon, and once you double-click on the icon, it will open up, and you'll be able to view it then. You can also save it to your own computer and use it for future purposes. Um, where are this? For this quarter sales training, may we use these signature videos for training instead of the successfully selling HUD PowerPoint? Um, since that successfully selling, I think that actually those videos are good to augment the presentation when you're making a presentation. Um, I don't think any of those videos that are on there. There was one that is 7 minutes. I think all the other ones were less than 2 minutes. So I don't think that the information provided in there dictates enough to exclude the quarterly training. But I think that it would be good to augment that and supplement that information with the videos. All right, step two, do we remove from MLS? Um, if you are, that will vary per property, and the reason that it is, sorry. So the question is, do we remove step twos from the MLS? And that's going to vary per property for the reason that it was moved down. So if it was moved down for some reason, um, you will be notified if it needs to be removed from the MLS. All right. What do we do if we have a property not popping up for routine inspections? Okay, good question. If you have a property that is um, not receiving the routine inspections, then please send an email to Katora. Sometimes, for some reason, the link, the cycle breaks for unknown reasons, and we just have to kind of jumpstart it again by creating a manual routine inspection. So if you do find that they're not happening on a property, and they should be happening every 2 weeks. So, and at this point, with inventory being as low as it is, we shouldn't have like missing questions for many properties. So if you do see that you are not receiving, your routine inspections, your RMIs, or even an ongoing BPO for that matter, please let Katora know, and we can just jumpstart that by creating a manual task for you. Um, all right. If we have a property that is probably reconveyance property and we have previously sent an email regarding. Yeah. Hold on. Sorry. I'm trying to figure out this question really quick. Um, I guess the question is following up on reconveyance. Um, if you want to send one follow-up email, if it has been more than 2 weeks and you have not received a response, please feel free, I guess, to submit an email. But it's important for everyone, just as a reminder, that once we submit, like when there are properties that are going through the reconveyance process, first of all, the listing brokers, you all still have to do RMI inspections or buyer outreach, because we do not know this if the property is going to leave HUD's inventory. So that is still um, is questionable. We don't even know the answer at this point. But as a reminder, when we submit something for reconveyance, we have to allow that previous lender 90 days to correct the issue. Now, some lenders are on top of it and they get it corrected, and we don't have to reconvey a property. Um, and that's great. So, and if it was the contract, if the property was under contract, then we offer that the buyer that first right of refusal. But the challenge is that we have 90 days that we're waiting for the previous lender, the mortgagee, or to provide and correct the issue. If they do not respond or do not correct the issue, then we have to take additional steps, and we'll most likely reconvey the property back to them. And that means once it is reconveyed, it leaves HUD's inventory. And we know that it's reconveyed whenever you put the case number in P260, and it shows the icon, or you get the message, case not found. We then know that that's the sign that the property has left the inventory. And I'll be honest, when you see that, is whenever we are notified of it too. So that is something, that's where it does require communication between us. So if between our team as well as the listing brokers. So if you do have a case that was possibly being reconveyed, then and it no longer appears in P260 or Yardi, then you need to let us know, and we can change the step in Sugar so that it ends the inspections. But until that happens, you're expected to complete the inspections. But back to the main question was that, um, you know, the lenders do have 90 days. And a lot of the times, as we're waiting for follow up, if we don't have an update from them, we're not going to be able to provide much of an update for you, except that we're still waiting. So please keep that in mind whenever we do have when properties are being submitted for reconveyance possibility. So just wanted to cover that off again really quick. If our initial BPO and initial appraisal are vastly different, can we do? Okay, so the question is, if an initial BPO and the initial appraisal are vastly different, can we review the appraiser's comps? So most likely, just so you know, we use the 20% variable. So if there is a difference of more than 20% between the appraisal and the BPO, then we will go back to, it is actually up to that person who's evaluating the case before listing it. We'll go back and find out why is there a variance of more than 20%. Um, in some cases, they will provide the comps. And if you see something that is abnormal, or maybe why a comp should have been used, please respond to that email and let us know. We also will usually provide the appraiser with your comps. So we kind of go back and ask for that information. And our appraisers have been really good about getting back to us as well. So we're doing this to try to make sure that we don't have these gross differences in the BPO price as well as the appraisal price. Now, obviously, that is a little bit different right now in Puerto Rico because the market is declining faster than the comps can keep up with. So, we are struggling a little bit with that price difference. We definitely have a lot more that we're looking at down there, but we are going back and doing these inquiries and trying to find out why we have this difference. We then input that our findings from that into P260 so that it gives us support immediately for a price reduction if necessary. So, like all the information, I can't tell you guys how much we use all the information that you provide us all the time. So, all right, and I'm really running out of time. So, I'm going to answer the last question, and then and any of the other questions, I'll put a response in the email follow-up today. So we have a property that closed, and the buyer is trying to get the power on in their name, but the utility company says it's still in HUD's name and can't switch the power. Position to Sam. Any form. Is there an issue with the transition? No, that I'm not sure why that would actually be the case. So if you can send me and Katora the case number for that, and we will see what we can do to help. I'm not sure if I'm familiar with that answer right now, but it shouldn't be the case. So please send Katora and I, and we'll look into it further. Okay, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and we will review the rest of these questions that have come through, and I'll provide responses in my follow-up email. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it, and I will be in touch a little later today with some information. Thanks, y'all.